You can't rely on just a few phone calls to secure a listing any longer. You aren't just competing with other agents for the listing anymore. You're competing with every billboard, with every commercial, with every advertising, with every business that is doing marketing and trying to distract and get the attention of your potential client. So in a world where you are trying to compete for the attention of your potential clients, you've got to do a few things a little bit different. This is why the most productive agents are not just doing phone calls and they're not just doing paid advertising, but they're doing a whole bunch of things to try to capture the attention. But there is one approach that the most profitable, successful listing agents have figured out, and that's direct mail. According to Postalytics, direct mail right now has the highest ROI of any medium across all of marketing. That means there's a greater ROI in direct mail over text messaging, over email, over paid search even. Direct mail is making a huge comeback, and there's a few things that you need to incorporate into your strategy if you want it to be really effective. The first thing you've got to understand that mailing, just like any marketing strategy, isn't a single strategy approach. It's meant to work collectively together to capture the attention of your potential clients and build a brand and reputation with your community. And so when you mail is really dependent upon all of the other marketing approach you take. For example, if you're working expired listings, you may want to send that mailer off first thing and also do the calling. Now, what happens is a lot of people will call those expired listings right up front, but that dies down after just a few days. And then they're going to get your mail piece in the mail, and they're going to be able to see that. If you follow that up with another phone call, or if you follow that up with knocking on their door, if you follow that up by having paid advertising directly in their marketplace, all of a sudden the direct mail creates this synergy with the other marketing efforts to increase what you're doing. The first thing is when to mail. Now, this depends on what strategy you're using, but there's a couple of things that you can keep in mind to do this. The first is when you are trying to build brand and reputation and just get the attention, or when there's a specific call to action. And I'll give you two examples. So if you are trying to own a geographic area and you're trying to be the real estate agent that everybody thinks about, be the forefront of mind, then when you mail is consistently and often, right? So you're going to mail every couple of weeks for several weeks before that marketplace is going to start to recognize your name and your brand, maybe your logo and your colors, so that all of the rest of the marketing that you're doing will start to be more effective in their mind. The other thing though is when there's a specific call to action. For example, if you are going to do direct mail to for sale by owners or to expired listings, there might be more of a direct call to action, and when you mail needs to fit into your other marketing strategies. So if you are going to work expired listings, you might send those mailers first thing, then you might want to call, right? Or you might want to call and then send the mailers afterwards with a different call to action because you've talked to them on the phone, right? So when you mail is really dependent on what strategy you want to do, but keep in mind that it has to do with the call to action and it has to do with building your brand. So we've given a couple examples of mailers, but in that is the second most important strategy of mailing, which is who are you mailing to? See, in marketing, the more narrow the niche, the more narrow the audience, the more specific we can be in our messaging, in our marketing. So if you are mailing to a specific group of people, you want to understand what problems that they're dealing with, and that's going to increase the engagement with the postcard. So most of the time I'm going to get mail in the mail and it's going to go in the garbage. I might look at it, especially if it's well designed or there's bright colors, it might go in the garbage. But all of a sudden, if I'm dealing with a problem, and I'll give you a real life example, is I have a leak in my main line in the water line. Well, I might throw away every single postcard that a plumber might send to my house, except when it's top of mind that I have a problem I'm dealing with, those coupons and those postcards and those advertisements from a plumber are going into a separate pile because it's a problem I'm dealing with right now. So when you apply that to being a real estate professional, when you're dealing with expired listings, you want to understand their problem and send out direct mail to them addressing their problem. And if you're sending a direct mail to for sale by owners, then you want to understand what they're dealing with and what the problems they're having and make that the message so that it increases the amount of engagement that you get. So understanding who you are sending to is important because that allows you to craft the right message to increase the success. Of course, that's why we've been around for 22 years is we start with the audience. We know who the people that are likely to list, the expireds, the for sale by owners, people that distressed property owners, neighborhoods where you can narrow that down into maybe empty nesters or maybe people who have a lot of children with not enough square footage, but you can create an audience from the data so that you know who to mail to with the right message. I can't reiterate the point enough that once you understand who you're mailing to, the message has to be around the problems that they're dealing with. Even if you're mailing to a neighborhood, it's best if you understand what the neighborhood is going through, what they're thinking about, the things that are going on locally, so that the message is more relevant. You want to personalize the mail to not personalize it to you and put your branding all over it and everything. You do want that. You want your logo, you want recognition to who you are, but you want to personalize it to them so that it's more relevant. And the best way to do that is personalizing it to a problem or a situation that they're dealing with. Once you understand who you're mailing to, and once you understand the message of their problem, that could capture their attention. But if there isn't a strong call to action, then a lot of that was for naught. We'll go back to the example of the plumber. If I'm looking for a plumber, I have a problem, and I get an advertisement that says, hey, we do plumbing, and it has a phone number on there, and it's a really weak call to action, I'm going to set that aside because it requires me at that moment to set everything down, grab my phone, put in a number, have a conversation. I might not have all the information. So the barrier to entry or the effort it requires on my part is too high. So a good call to action is something that requires very little interaction on their part, little effort as possible. We've found that QR codes are one of the very best things to do. So you could put a QR code on there that gives an invitation for them to download something that will help them in the situation that they're in. For expireds, here's a checklist of things to make sure you ask your next agent to do in order to get your home sold. It's a low barrier to entry. It's something that helps them solve the problem. But once they download that, now you can capture their name, their email, a phone number. If you're using our services, you can even get a feedback loop that says, hey, we know somebody in this area now downloaded something from your direct mail. But you have to have a low barrier to entry, easy call to action to make sure that people will engage and that you'll have that feedback loop so that you can communicate with them to eventually get the listing. So now you have no excuse to get started. It's about who you're sending it to. It's about what the message is. It's about having a decent call to action. If you have issues, we can help you do that. But whether you're a solo agent, whether you're part of a team, you have got to start to incorporate direct mail into your strategy because right now it has the highest ROI, it has the highest open rate and consumption rate of almost any marketing out there right now. So start mailing today.